Valentine. I'm calling from you. Mr. Suka, I want to talk about this what they call sex for man or something in school. While we were students, I don't know why lecturers are doing like this, because while we were in school, you hear your colleagues, sometimes they will come and then pinch you. This man, I don't know what this lecturer, this is what he's doing, or this is what he wants. Sometimes you'll be wondering, how will you have somebody that will say that he has all the credentials, all the professors are the ones? These are the doctors, these are the everything, and then a small a small child that doesn't have anything. You are even going after the charities. It is something that we need to think of. Sometimes they don't know that them going to class to teach. Sometimes everything that they wear, the students have even leaked everything to the class, to their fellow students. So this is one of the things, and it's very bad, very bad. You enter the class and then you are trying to teach, and then everything was, if you were the talk of the class, before the school. It is very bad. It is something that we need to do something, because it is something that must not continue. It is a sad story. This one, I know the wife. This one has a very good wife, which is a lecturer. He's my lecturer. The wife was my lecturer, and it is a very sad story for people to hear this. How even the wife sit down to hear this kind of a thing? It is a sad story. Thank you for.
All right, thank you very much, Parliamentarian, for joining us. It's indeed a sad story for a wife to get to understand that the husband is in the public space because of sexual harassment or issues of sexual harassment. And the question people often ask, we'll get back to that, but let's talk to this Parliamentarian. Hello, good morning. Welcome to the plenary.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker.
Welcome, Parliamentarian.
You see, really what's going on. God will put an end to wickedness. It's wickedness. I want to end there. This happening in Obama James forever. God.
All right, thank you very much, Parliamentarian. A lot of persons will describe it as different words, inhumanity to humanity, wickedness, unprofessional conduct on the part of the lecturers. But this narrative and the question of, sexual harassment has two sides to it. We've seen sexual harassment. We've heard sexual harassment in schools, male lecturers and female students. We also know that very insignificant, cases of female lecturers harassing male students also abound. But be that as it may, sexual harassment has been one of the problems that we've seen in Nigerian universities, and has been one of the major reasons why Nigerian universities is churning out graduates who do not have grasp of what they actually went in to study. That's beside extortion through sorting, which of course has also been fingered as one of the major causes of the educational decay in our tertiary institutions. So all of these concerns, as could have been avoided. And like Parliamentarian Valentine said, wife stating and just waking up to realize that your husband is no longer going to be working because he's been found wanting because of sexual harassment. Meanwhile, you have a wife as beautiful as posited by Parliamentarian Valentine. But then there's another question. Do people who cheat, whether a man or a woman, actually do that because they don't have a spouse who takes care of their needs, or they just do it because it's an inbuilt thing, or is one of the vices that they choose to pursue at the detriment of every other person around them, regardless of whose horses is gorge? These are different questions that we can ask, but then regardless of how much we try to explain away cheating and sexual predators, some some of these persons just cannot do away unless there are laws put in place, which of course is why women group are seeking for the sexual harassment bill to be signed into law so we can have a legal framework to prosecute predators. Good morning, parliamentarian. Welcome on board the plenary.
Yeah, my name, I'm calling from Dua.
Welcome.
The speaker, it's a very sad commentary to listen to. But I want to quickly say that we need to control our emotions anytime that we are, about doing things that will put us in the public domain. And if you are a public figure, you should be aware of the fact that a lot of people are watching over you as a role model. So there are things that you don't do. But to me, I feel that it's a mind thing. Everybody can overcome it once you have a control of your life. There are things that, psychologically, you look at it and you look at the environment, look at your family, look at the church that you go, look at the people that are looking up to you, and you now come to that conclusion that you cannot do it. No matter how tempted something is, you're able to control yourself. But be as it may, in a racial environment, there are a lot of, problems that are going on. Even these lecturers are also facing a lot of problems because most of them are being seduced and they don't have a way of going out of it. If you are lost, you see yourself falling into that. But I think the mature man should be able to stand his ground and live up to that expectation. Because as I'm talking to you, a lot of people are falling victim of circumstance because of how they cannot control their emotions. But it's very, very unfortunate in this kind of regard. Not about anything but sexual harassment. It's something that will stain your image for the rest of your life. So I think people should live above board. The students themselves should be able to settle down and study instead of resorting for, looking for a way to sort, to gain marks, on due favor from, your lecturer and all that. This may bring this kind of development because you can see the way things are going. The educational sector is going down. The decay is too much. Even from the primary section to secondary section, you see a lot of, people doesn't want to read. They want to use shortcuts, exams, malpractice and all that. Because Nigeria is looking for certificates, Just bring your certificate. They don't care how you get the certificate. Instead of resorting to having things done with their hands. Certificate aside. But everybody, the quest for certificate is the order of the day. So people will go extra mile to do one thing or the other to make sure that they have the certificate so that they can gain promotion and all that in their place of work and wherever. So it calls for consent. I think we should go back and look at, when we were in school, those ones that were brilliant were in the school. Those that were not were sent to learn trade and all that. But, this free and compulsory education has brought everybody from all nooks and crannies, and there's a lot of competition, ways to go to school and all that. So we should look inward and look at the way we can, bring down these things down because it's a very sad commentary in our university education. God bless all.
All right, thank you very much, parliamentarian. Very hilarious part of a comment. The time we used to go to school, people were not brilliant, were sent to learn trades. Well, you should also know that learning trade these days comes with a level of brilliance. If you're not intelligent, carpentry, for instance, requires calculation. So if you don't know math, how are you going to be able to calculate it? For instance, you want to go and think about doing a mechanic, it still requires a lot of calculation. Knowing when to untie the bolts, knowing what percentage of some liquids to be added into some, aspect of the vehicle. A lot is required. So literally there's nothing on earth that doesn't require a level of, intellectual capacity on the part of the individual. And this is something that cannot be rolled out. But talking about sexual predators is just something that, has contributed a long time to the educational decay. And if we see laws put in place to actually address these, a lot of people have said these would, to a large extent, help, clean and sanitize our educational system. When lecturers know that when you are caught victimizing students, asking sex in return for grades, when students know that there is a constitutional provisions for them to sue a lecturer who is sexually harassing them, then it will just be a matter of getting, the evidence to show that there is an harassment currently ongoing. And then when we begin to see lecturers being sent to jail, or in the issue of balancing this whole talk, because we also know in Nigerian universities and tertiary institutions, there are students who are actually the ones harassing the lecturers sexually because they know they cannot pass the course. They don't have the level of seriousness needed for them to sit down and study and pass the course. So they go around seducing, harassing lecturers sexually just to get them in bed, and then, of course, try to coddle favor. So it's a two-way thing that needs to be balanced. The laws that is being anticipated at this point should look at, hopefully, should look at the provisions of protecting the lecturers across Nigerian universities who will be, preyed by females who are not interested in sitting down to study, or guys who are not also interested in sitting down to study as it comes to female lecturers, and also protecting the students on the other side. So there should be that balance for both sides. And when we begin to see both students and lecturers found wanting, being punished for it through, the verdict of the Court of Competent Jurisdiction, then we'll see a lot of this narrative changing. But let's head to our Facebook page. Parliamentarian Hobo Moore Jr. says the French president should also listen to the demands made by the juntas rather than taking natural recourse without developing Africa is not the way forward. Nigeria is the giant of the middle class from parliamentarian Hobo Moore Jr. Parliamentarian Edidion Obiak says, good morning, Mr. Speaker and fellow parliamentarians. I want to talk about the first motion, and I was that it should be balanced. Mr. Speaker, let me shock you. There are a lot of female students that are even harassing the lecturers, begging and even forcing themselves for sex, for marks or grades, as the case may be. I'm a living testimony because I'm in the system. Just know this for true, that so many female students who are not ready to read, write, and pass are the ones pushing for these sex by lecturers. In as much as I won't say that some lecturers are not doing this, I'm saying that more is coming from the female students. So laws should also be signed towards this, and it shouldn't be one-sided. Away from that, let me congratulate His Excellency Pastor Omono for his giant stride in trying to turn around this great state. May the good Lord be with him. God bless Nigeria. And we say amen to that. God bless Nigeria. Well, Parliamentarian Edidion Obiak had already balanced it. All of us pass through the four walls of the academics environment, the four walls of the Nigerian tertiary institutions, and we definitely have had first-hand information of the practices of, some of these incidences. And so it is very wrong for you to think that, lecturers are the only sexual predators on campuses. We also have, student sexual predators on campuses who are looking for lecturers, and in some cases where the lecturers even refuse, we get, there have been cases of students attempting to set up these lecturers, as a way of saying, okay, since I'm trying to get you to do this and you're not, let me frame you up for rape or other sexual assault and charges, of course, as a way of trying to get the lecturers to cave in. So we know that all of these scenarios are very much, playing out in the Nigerian system. But let's get back to Parliamentarian Udeme Mega, who says the People's Parliament. Sexual harassment and sex for grade is one of the major issues in Nigerian tertiary institutions, and stringent action need to be taken and perpetrators brought to book. It affects the quality of some of the girls that succumb to the demands by these rogue lecturers because they ended up getting good grades they can't defend, and these will definitely affect their input in the society and also dampens the morale of the serious and faithful ones. Thank you. Exactly the point stated by Parliamentarian Udeme Mega Ebu. There is no way somebody, most of the persons who usually within our days in school study hard, when they get to discover that you study hard, you burn all the candles, you burn all the light, you stay all the late nights, going for late night reading classes in the cold, risking it all. And then eventually when you read and you write, and instead of getting an A, the lecturer still gets to undermark you. Of course, you find out that, that slay mama, that slay queen somewhere who doesn't attend classes, who didn't study, and definitely does not have the mental capacity to meet up with you, gets an A while you're struggling to get a C. It dampens the spirit of persons, and that has been, part of the decay. But let's move. And of course, Take one more comment before we head out for a second recess. Parliamentarian Ania Kanidem says, good morning, parliamentarian. Sexual harassment didn't start today in our university, but it keeps increasing on daily basis. That's the problem. I still remember one lecturer threatening my girlfriend to fail her if she refuses complying with him, and she reported to the dean, but nothing was done about it. Ania Kanino Senidem from Parinin. Ania Kan, sir, my brother, will feel your pain. Some of us have been through that. And like I said, if I have to share my experience here this morning, a lot of persons might be very upset. But I almost didn't graduate because the lecturer had an interest in my girlfriend back then in school. And of course, I had incomplete results even when I had taken the exams. And in as much as many people would say, these are things that doesn't happen or happen sparingly. I had to get to the point of calling for my result to be brought out, or the search was done to a point that a panel had to be set up. And when it was seen that my name was on the exam, attendance list for that day, as I had said, of course, I always would tell people when you're writing exams, it's very important to note who is sitting in front of you and who is sitting behind you when I have the opportunity to speak to students, because in situations like this, the first thing is going to be the attendance register. So if my name if your name wasn't there, then you missed out. So my name was there within the people I knew sat in front and behind me, and of course, I had to write that exam in front of a panel. It was marked, and eventually I got to clear. So these things happen to the best of us, and we still have to find a way to sort it out. But with the law in place, then we will begin to see a lot more attention being paid on the part of the students and on the part of the lecturers, and we'll begin to have our systems being sensitized. But we'll take a short pause here and head out to a second recess, where we'll be bringing you BBC The World in 2 minutes, a few more commercials, and then we'll return to the plenary to wrap up our conversation this morning. Stay with us, parliamentarians.
Lighten your mood.
Stave off that fatigue.
Country music at its best.
It's awesome.
And it revolves around you.
You asked for it. Now you
you have it. Spectrum Television, the first indigenous television station in the Aqua Cross region, is ready to serve you. For sales, promotion and advertisement, hurry now to City Office at 2 Taft Plaza Close off Akaitanen Road, Uyo, or call 0817-648-4688. Spectrum TV, broadening your horizon.
This is Planet in partnership with the BBC. And now, BBC Minute.
BBC News with Moira Alderson. Donald Trump has described charges against him in the U.S. state of Georgia as a travesty of justice and election interference. Mr. Trump, the frontrunner for the Republican presidential nomination, was speaking after handing himself in to have his mugshot taken. The Pentagon says it will start training Ukrainian pilots to fly F-16 fighter jets in October. Last week, it emerged that Washington had agreed to allow other nations to supply the American-made planes to Ukraine. Russia says it's intercepted more than 40 Ukrainian drones over occupied Crimea. It said 9 drones were destroyed, while the others were suppressed by what it called electronic warfare. Figures seen by the BBC show that the companies based in Britain have been buying increasing quantities of jet fuel from refineries in India that process Russian crude. Direct imports of Russian energy are banned, but not those involving fuel substantially processed elsewhere. The head of the Spanish Football Association is expected to resign later after being criticised for his behaviour during Spain's victory in the Women's World Cup. Luis Rubiales was seen kissing a player on the lips and also grabbing his crotch while seated near Queen Letizia. Japan is testing water and fish around the wrecked Fukushima nuclear power plant, a day after it began releasing treated radioactive water into the sea. The plant's operator says radioactivity in the seawater is well within safe limits. British police are investigating the deaths of 88 people who bought a poisonous substance from a seller in Canada. The man, who was arrested in May, is accused of running websites selling material to assist suicide. Microsoft says a Chinese-based hacking group's been targeting dozens of Taiwanese government.
International Academy, the current champions of the 2021 Ibom Spellings Bee competition, is currently open for admission into crèche, nursery and primary schools.
Broadman International Academy, located at number 3, Etuk F. Young Crescent, opposite School Road, Uyo, Akwa Ibom State, offers a serene learning environment, qualified and certified teachers, wide and varied curriculum, including Montessori learning, computer lab, music, creative arts, and home economics lab.
Gives rebate on admission for fresh intake and parents with 3 or more children.
You can view your children's results on our online portal at www.bmiastar.com.ng.
Call these numbers for further inquiry: 0810-719-5963 or 0704-793-3439.
Broadman Starlight Academy, nurturing a total child for excellence.
Hallelujah, Hosanna. Praise the Lord. Joy to the world. Our Lord has come. The earth received her King. King Jesus must be celebrated every day because he isn't a seasonal king. He is King of kings and Lord of lords, the one and only landlord. Obonganyong Yang Yisong, the only creator. It is written, if any man love not the Lord Jesus my Christ, let him be anathema, cursed. 1 Corinthians 16 verse 22. He is God forever. He controls all creation. Arise, let us adore him, worship him in spirit and in truth from now. Then life more abundant is yours forever. Happy new life. Shalom. Akamini Ubongo Basi Abraham. Prophetic voice of redemption. To God be the glory.
You're live on Planet 101.1 FM. Of course, you know we revolve around you. Focus this morning has been on gender violence or gender issues, talking about sex for grades in our respective universities across Nigeria. We started off with the protest in Unical that, you know, spiral out to Unizik, and of course we're having women group calling on the president to assent to sexual harassment bills. And of course, we move away from that to the issue in Niger, where the French president's calling for the junta's exit, and ECHO are beginning fresh talk. You can join the conversation this morning on our Facebook page and via the phone lines. Hello, good morning. Welcome to the plenary.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Speaker.
Welcome, parliamentarian.
I cut it short the very first time is because I'm so grieved concerning this our generation. Don't forget, Jesus said he would tolerate Sodom and Gomorrah, which no more in existence than this generation. How can somebody, after getting through education and everything, become a lecturer or become a student, want to be a student, and then forget about his creator who gave him life? The moment anybody breaks his commandment, because it's a command that you must stay as God has directed you to stay. The moment you do it, that's the actual zakata. And then when people say they have to die. But what grieves me is that many clergy are after celebrating burial, and they call that land respect. When these people were living right, and then you don't give land respect to the dead, and then you call yourself a man of God. Enough is enough of this nonsense, so that our generation will be better than Sodom and Gomorrah. That's where it annoys me. We should return. The men who are creating problem in our generation now, killing here and there in ordinary because they have opportunity, and then people are suffering in the midst of plenty, and they feel, hey, I'm a professional, this, I'm a professional, and then creating problem, committing sin, and causing problem everywhere. Please, let us return. Our generation will be better. It will be glorious. Return to our Father and keep His commandment. Then it shall be well with us. You don't need to be a pastor or a preacher before things go normal. But you see what's going on now. Even the many clergymen are going haywire.
Okay, very passionate one from parliamentarians there. Issues of misappropriation of public funds, issues of, people who are supposed to be professionals not acting as the professionals they are, and how they are supposed to act within, the provisions of the professional ethics. But we do hope we all get to that point of having a better country in Nigeria. Back to a Facebook page, parliamentarian Henry, who says, good morning, Mr. Speaker. Sexual harassment bill will not stop the menace of sex for grades in our tertiary institutions. The way female students dress on campus is already sexual harassment to the men folks. When a lady decides to dress in such a way that almost everything can be seen outside, then who is harassing who? Some of these female students offer themselves for grades. They even book for the hotels to be used. So to stop sexual harassment, female students should stop harassing men sexually with the way they dress on campus. Thank you, Remain Henry. Well, parliamentarian Henry, dressing, in as much as we kick against and we join the relevant government agencies and of course right groups and women advocacy groups to condemn indecent dressing on the part of both the females and the male, because indecent dressing is both ways. Men are dressing indecently these days, women are dressing indecently, so indecent dressing is both ways. But then indecent dressing has never been the reason for the cause for the different things that has happened. Take for instance some of the conversations that has been had around why men rape women, and then you ask the question, that little child that is still being defiled by a grown-up man, is she dressing indecently? I mean, what even in the body of a child would attract a grown-up man to think of defiling a child? And of course, we've also seen incidences of women properly being dressed still being molested. So it goes past indecent dressing to actually the mindset of the individuals involved in these practices. It goes back to their orientation. It goes back to the moral stamina or the moral strength. It goes back to to, their belief system and how they've been able to train themselves and what, triggers them at the respective level. So seeing in as much as we condemn indecent dressing, we also have to understand that nothing excuses sexual harassment, sex for grade, and, every act of sexual aggression against the next person, be it man or woman or a child. But thanks for joining us this morning. Truly appreciate you. Of course, parliamentarian Noye Idion says, good morning, parliamentarians. Happy Friday weekend to you all. Please, President Tinubu should try and assent to this sexual harassment bill over sex for grades, because these issues is giving Nigeria institutions a bad name. So let there be a stop for this nonsense issue. Please, Nigerian Navy should not destroy the crude oil again. Instead, they should reserve it for when Port Harcourt Refinery and Dangote Refinery will kickstart their operations. And I don't think that crude oil will have any issue when reserving for long. Please, Nigerian Navy should save our economy. Well, it's a very passionate plea at this point. Still a very heated conversations on why, in the midst of Nigeria not meeting its reduction quota, we are having the Nigerian Navy, the Nigerian Air Force, the Nigerian military always destroying vessels laden with crude oil. And the excuse is it is standard operational procedure. The big question is, what is the standard operational procedure in that? And particularly when the leadership of the National Assembly have called on the Nigerian military to not again continue destroying or burning, vessels caught with loaded crude oil, as these belongs to Nigeria. And there's also a conversation as to who is actually in charge. There have been reports and allegations, alleging that the military does this to cover up its track. Nigerians haven't forgotten, one of the trending, conversations that happened as a result of the Labour Party presidential candidates comment that for stealing of oil to happen in Nigeria, not in Nigerian waters, for it to be taken outside the shores of Nigeria, there is a high collaboration that goes deep into the ranks and files of the armed forces and people in position of authority within government. So it's been also stated by many Nigerians across the social media platform that this is still the military personnel trying to cover their tracks, and it's personnel who are found wanting from being caught up, because even these crude oil that are being destroyed should be seen as evidence in the way our legal system works. So if you're presenting people you've arrested for oil theft, are you going to present pictures without the oil itself? I mean, when you've destroyed the oil, where are the pictures? I mean, for crying out loud, those people can also argue, as far as legal expert would say, evidence is as solid as provided and as solid as argued by, the opposition. So these are conversations we do hope the leadership of Ahmed Bola Tinubu, who is also in charge of the petroleum ministry, the petroleum sector, will address holistically. And of course, the National Assembly should do more than just issuing directive, but also ensuring that, these armed organizations are called to order. Still on the Facebook page, before we come back to the phone line, which of course is still open on 0902-223-101, we have parliamentarian Prince Anyeti Ntia, who says, the People's Parliament, good morning and happy Friday. Sex for grade is a sad and shameful act by the lecturers or teachers. This is a crime against the female children and women at large. Therefore, I support the call from the women group to the president to, as a matter of life and death, assent to the bill. All right, that's coming from Parliamentarian Anyeti Ntia. Thank you very much, Parliamentarian Anyeti Ntia, for joining us. Hello, good morning. Welcome to the plenary. Hello, good morning. I'm afraid I have to let you go there. Good morning, Parliamentarian. Welcome to the plenary.
Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
All right, the person that is calling is Remnant from you. Hello?
Yes, welcome, Parliamentarian. Go ahead.
Yeah. Please, when we talk about this lecturer and female students in the school committing sexual immorality, the problem is not the girls. The problem is the lecturers, because they are there for a purpose to teach, and to lecture and to groom and to produce people that will be able to lead the nation, the world. For the fact, because I heard somebody saying that they seduce, some will be seducing the lecturer. It's not a matter of seducing you. When they seduce you, what's your work there? Is your work when they seduce you, you go and play with them? Your work is to produce those girls and produce the people who come out there. So this thing has been rampant. It's annoying, it's alarming, and it's a shameful act. This is what has brought education down in Nigeria, you know. And the devil used this thing as an instrument to rubbish education. These girls, you see them, they will come out of school without anything in their head. Come out of polytechnic, come out of university. They cannot even write a letter or to a letter of application. They can't. They don't know anything. So it's bringing down education sector of Nigeria. It's very bad. It's very poor. I don't know how they can handle this, how they can do this thing in Nigeria. I don't know what Senate should do in order to stop it. They should get those people arrested. They are not lecturers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Well, that's still the conversation that is currently being pushed this morning. It's not just enough. Remember, the way the legal system in Nigeria works is all based on evidences, and of course, this needs to be backed up by law. Good morning, parliamentarian. Welcome to the plenary.
Good morning. Good morning.
Yes, good morning, parliamentarian. Welcome. Go ahead. You have the floor.
My name is Baxi. I'm calling from Uyo. My contribution is, I don't want to throw the blame of this campus issue to the females or the males or the lecturers. I want to believe it's multifaceted. If the universities are working the way they're supposed to work, you pass your course by merit. You are loaded as you are supposed to be loaded. The female student will be left with no time to go and start thinking of walking naked. It's because by the time they walk naked, the lecturer is interested and she will pass the course just like that, and next time she will even do more. Now let's come back to the issue of age. You have specified that for somebody to be in the university, the person must be of so age, which means you have already prepared our minds that this person should be mature enough to see some of these things. So if you come to the issue of age and you say it should be 16 or it should be 17, it should be 18, you have already accepted to some extent indecency. So you don't turn around to say, this thing should be done this way, this thing should be done this way. Let us have our mind that we cannot control these people 100%. There will be that element of indecency. Now, going to the lecturer, the lecturers are benefiting because by the time a student is not serious, and some of them, not all of them, that one is true. Some of them are like seeing this girl as indicated by way of dressing that she will be interested in something or doing this, let me key into it. Most of them are benefiting. So it's not a case of law. Law will not solve all these things. Where will even have the money to prosecute all these people in all the universities? Or will you be like rusticating everybody? I think our moral maybe discipline should be called to bear. Our attention to academics, the environment should be okay. That nobody will find a short way to be interested in one or two things to pass the exam and get out. That's my contribution. Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Well, that gives credence to what many parliamentarians have said this morning. It's a multifaceted problem that needs to be faced and addressed holistically. Just take a short pause and I'm going to quick commercial break. Then we'll return to wrap up our conversation this morning. Stay with us.
Mother's love is unconditional. Nothing serves this love better than a bowl of Indomie. So, show some love with Indomie.
Well, glad to welcome you back from that short commercial break. Still on our comment section before we wrap it up this morning. Master Kani Enomana says, good morning, Mr. Speaker. I'm watching live in Mpatak. Okay, thank you very much for joining us. Parliamentarian Bro John says, the People's Parliament, sex before grade needs a thorough orientation and counsel starting from the home, and of course the provision of a conducive environment for students to study. Okay, thanks for joining us. Parliamentarian David Udo says, what truly is the French business in West Africa other than to be exploiting uranium-rich Niger? That's how they go about stoking war in other people's countries while theirs remain relatively peaceful and stable. ECOWAS should please snuff francs and avoid any confrontation with Niger Republic. And by the way, I don't see how Niger's internal affairs should concern the individual ECOWAS countries on the basis that it is not their uranium that's being exploited. Okay, that's from Parliamentarian David Odo. Well, everything happening within the countries of the ECOWAS is a problem of the ECOWAS, and so you can't expect that the leadership of ECOWAS would sit back and watch things go wrong within its territories and not act. Parliamentarian Brojo says there is need for the university female students to be oriented and counsel against sex for grade because corruption is everywhere in Nigeria, and parents have a serious role to play in disciplining their children. French President's comment on the junta is highly appreciated, so there is a need for ECOWAS to play diplomatic measures in dissolving with the military force. Gender equality bill should be critically looked into whether women should have a voice in nation building. Nigerian Navy destroying thousands of crude oil is totally unacceptable and would cause water pollution on the environs, which shows that there are cabals benefiting from the system. Let's leave God out of politics and religion while the people of Akwa State are suffering in abject poverty and unemployment, rather than constructive criticism should be made for the government to improve on grassroots development for the sake of her citizenry. Thank you very much, Parliamentarian Bro John. Hello, good morning. Welcome to the plenary.
Hello.
Good morning, Parliamentarian.
Good morning. Nice to have you.
Yes, nice to have you join us. Your name and where you're calling from?
I'm calling from here.
Your name, Parliamentarian?
Huh?
What's your name? Okay, we lost connection there again, and that should have been our last comment for today's plenary. I'd like to appreciate all parliamentarians who've been part of today's conversation and discuss. And of course, we do hope that the conversation about putting in place legal instruments to help safeguard women in the universities, particularly, and all gender-based, abuses and sexual advances or harassment within our institutions being holistically addressed. We also hope that the National Assembly will be able to bring back, moving to bring back those laws that were thrown out by the National Assembly, are able to make that a law so that we begin to have legal frameworks and guidelines for women inclusivity in government, as is being advocated for in the interest of our collective growth and advancement. Of course, truly also like to appreciate all the parliamentarians who have been part of the entirety of this week. And let's not forget that the People's Parliament will always be here Monday through Fridays to take us through the happenings within and outside the state. Of course, the People's Parliament for the month of August was proudly brought to you by Broadmind Starlight Schools. Thank you so much, Broadmind Starlight Schools, for being our sponsors. This is where we're going to draw the curtain. They'll always advise you and urge us to pray for our state and our leaders, the country and our leaders, so that we can have, the kind of robust leadership that will bring about collective growth and development. But beyond that, let's also ensure that we take collective and individual responsibilities of protecting things that belongs to us, because every government project is our project. And when we begin to take that collective responsibility, then we'll have government projects coming to meet government projects and not government projects being destroyed before new ones are instituted across our respective communities. Francis Oyima Edet is my name, the Speaker of the Parliament, wishing you a lovely Friday experience and, of course, praying for a most rewarding weekend. Happy hour, in the words of our governor, to you for those who will have that time. For me to you is bye-bye. Have a beautiful day.